Mr. Šimečka, good evening and welcome to Kyiv.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, and good evening to everyone.
Michal, how is it that the Slovak PM couldn't make it today and you could?
Well, you have to ask him. Of course, I love Kyiv, so I'm extremely happy to be here. Extremely happy to have meetings with Ukrainian politicians. And for the rest, we would have to ask our Prime Minister. But I think it's really important at this point in time that our two countries, Slovakia and Ukraine, really try to move forward on energy security, on security in general, on bilateral relations. And this is also why I'm here, along with my colleagues from Progressive Slovakia Party. We've had discussions with the President, with the Speaker of Parliament, and they're all focused on how to move forward, how to have a proper constructive dialogue. And I'm very happy that also the President, but also others, made it clear that they're ready to engage constructively with the Slovak government. So we'll see where it goes next.
Michal, I know you have lived in Kyiv for a couple of months, but it was like 14 years ago. Now you came here for a day. You have some impressions, and you have had some meetings. I know you have met President Zelenskyy, you have meeting in Verkhovna Rada. Can you share your impressions with us? What have changed and what have you seen? What feelings do you have now?
Feelings are mixed, of course, because on the one hand, there's sadness when you look at the destruction brought on by Russia's bombardment and by the war. And you see it here in the city. Of course, we went to see the children's hospital, which was bombed. So that's difficult to see. But on the other hand, it's a beautiful, modern city. I lived here, as you said, years back, and I have very fond memories of Kyiv from that period. I lived here for a couple of months. But I was as a student. But now that I compare it to what I remember, it's way more modern. It's also in terms of infrastructure, in terms of everything. But it remains its beauty remains. So I'm really just sad that it's just a one-day visit, and I really hope that I'll be able to come back to Kyiv soon for a longer period of time, not just to have political meetings, but also to enjoy the city, because there's much to enjoy.
My colleague Valentina was there seeing your meeting with President Zelenskyy. Could you tell us what happened afterwards? The cameras were out. Maybe some insights from your meeting with the president.
As I said, it was a good discussion. It was a very constructive discussion, and the most important message, or at least from my side, the most important takeaway, is that the Ukrainian president and the Ukrainian government is ready to engage in good faith and in a constructive spirit to find also on the issue of energy security, to find together with the Slovak government a way forward, and this is really important, and it's really important for people in Slovakia to know, and we will communicate that also to people in Slovakia that Ukraine is absolutely willing and constructive to move forward and to have a good discussion on energy security, on other aspects. And I think this is really important also for the future of our bilateral relations and for the future of Ukraine in Europe, because this is really, really important. Slovakia, the people of Slovakia, or certainly lots and lots of people in Slovakia, really support Ukraine's fight for freedom, for its sovereignty, and really have faith that Ukraine will become a member of the European Union, and that we would together be in our common European family. And this would be really also good for our own economy in Slovakia. You see a lot in the past days and weeks, solidarity in Slovakia with Ukraine. There have been public protests or public rallies in support of Ukraine, in solidarity with Ukraine, with the motive peace for Ukraine. So this is really important to know that there's.
We will get back to that protest a bit afterwards, but now let's talk about gas, because in between our countries this question arose quite a lot recently. So could you explain to our audience briefly what is it this gas crisis PM Fico is talking about? What's happening with Slovaks now because of the lack of Russian cheap resources? What will happen in the next few weeks if it stays this way, and it will stay this way?
Yeah. What's important to know is that in Slovakia, there is, for the moment, there is enough gas to get us through the winter. And it's not Russian gas. It's stored gas or from other sources. I think, and I've been saying this publicly also in Slovakia, that going forward, the most important thing is for a country to, or for a government rather, to really work and find contracts or deliveries from other sources, to diversify. That has been the strategic goal of the European Union and remains so, and I think it's also important for the country, for our country at the moment. I mean, you know that the European Union as a whole, including Slovakia, that was in the Versailles summit, made a commitment to wean itself off of dependency on Russian fossil fuels. So I think that's where we should be headed long term. And now then there's the issue of transit, which again, despite kind of the, how would you put it, some sensitive language and back and forth over the past few days, and a visit to Moscow. Despite all that, I think, and also from what I heard from conversations we had today, there is willingness to work together on energy security when it comes to this particular issue. But I mean, I'm an opposition politician. I'm not here to negotiate specific arrangements. That's the responsibility of the government. And this is also I'm now calling on the Prime Minister to engage with the Ukrainian president and with the Ukrainian government to try to find some constructive solution. But this is between the two governments, or between the president and our prime minister. We're, for the moment, we're an opposition party.
To put it simply for our audience, what actually Ukraine can do in this gas situation to help Slovakia, from your point of view?
Look, I mean, this is really up to the governments of the two countries. And I think there's plenty that both countries can do to help each other in terms of energy security and energy in general. As for the specifics, I mean, this is really up to the respective governments. What I wanted to do with this visit, and what my main message is, that there is willingness on the side of Ukraine, because I've been told that by the president, that there is willingness to engage in good faith, to have a discussion, and now I'm calling on our Prime Minister to take that hand and to open that door, and we'll see where it goes. We'll see where the two governments end up in terms of a technical solution.
Back to the protests you've mentioned before, after Prime Minister Fico's sudden trip to Moscow, following discussions about the gas in Brussels. There were massive protests in Slovakia, and if I'm not mistaken, it might be the first major protests about the foreign policy of PM Fico, because other demonstrations were more concerned with the domestic issues. Many MPs in the coalition of PM Fico supported him, but some are raising their voices against his trip to Kremlin. So, do you believe he somehow crossed a red line in Slovakia, and could you describe for me this red line?
I've said it many times in our media back home in Slovakia, that this is indeed crossing of a red line in my perspective, and it's a betrayal of Slovakia's interests, values, and also of our partners, and that's been pretty clear to me. And I'm not surprised that there are public protests, because this is not where Slovakia belongs. Slovakia belongs to Europe, and shares European values. So this is how I see it, and I think it's pretty clear that I'm in Kyiv and the Prime Minister went to Moscow. So I think the difference there is pretty clear. Also, what is very important and very important to me is that to know that there is a lot of solidarity with Ukraine, and you saw it in the protests. But what I fear is that there might be an attempt by politicians to misuse the situation, to turn some parts of the electorate, against Ukraine, or to foster sort of an anti-Ukrainian sentiment, and I want to stop that from happening. I think that would be bad, not just for bilateral relations now, but also for the future, because our countries, regardless of who is in power, our nations will be neighbors, and hopefully will be together in the European Union soon. So we should not, misuse even sensitive issues when it comes to energy to foster, sentiments that are anti-Ukraine or even anti-Slovak.
As far as I understand, such sentiments were actually raised on the previous elections and the presidential elections and previous parliamentary elections as well. And what can actually you do to prevent these sentiments to be fostered even more?
Well, part of that is that I'm here, engaging with the president, with members of the parliament, of the Verkhovna Rada, but also of the government, and to send a message that that Ukraine is willing to work with Slovakia and to work toward a mutually, acceptable and beneficial cooperation. And this is what we also need to tell the Slovak people, that, for instance, and I've been saying this, the fact that for now there is no Russian gas flowing through Ukraine and Slovakia is at root the responsibility of Vladimir Putin, who started the aggression. Had there not been, Russia's aggression toward Ukraine since 2014 and then 2022, who knows? We might still have had, gas. This is also important to explain, also publicly. And this is what we're trying to do, our political party, myself, my colleagues.
Recently, Slovak opposition announced that there will be a vote of no confidence to Slovakian government, and as far as I understand, it will be on Tuesday next week. Do you believe in this vote?
It's one of the strongest maneuvers that an opposition has, to call for no confidence in the government. On this particular case, all of the opposition parties united to call on the government to be dismissed, and there will be a vote of no confidence on Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But I think it's an important moment, also after the Prime Minister's visit to Moscow, to show that there is discontent, to show that this has crossed some lines. And this is what will be also heard in that debate. It's important to confront the Prime Minister in Parliament, because he's accountable to Parliament, about all of these issues. What is also important to understand about the Slovak context, that the visit to Moscow or the latest comments on Ukraine also come at a time when there's a very difficult economic situation in Slovakia. And the cost of living is rising and the taxes are rising. And also at a moment of instability in the government. So there is a context to it. And I think this, from my perspective as an opposition politician, there's been so many mishaps, so many failures by this government, that simply, at some point, enough is enough, and you call for a no confidence vote. We'll see what the numbers are. We'll see how it goes. Of course, there's going to be a vote on maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. But regardless of the vote, the government is not stable. You have MPs who are, either defecting or very critical. So it's a tough spot for the government.
In case, if after this vote or after some other situations, Slovakia holds another parliamentary elections, what would your program be like? I mean, will you promise to Slovakian people something different if to compare with the latest elections, where you actually lost to Fico party?
We did lose to Mr. Fico's party, but Progressive Slovakia is now the strongest liberal party in the European Union, and we had 18% of the vote in the last national elections. We won the European Parliament elections, and we're on the rise, our party, when it comes to opinion polls and whatnot. And the program is, it's quite simple, and it boils down to, building the future. The problem with this government, and now I'm talking also about domestic issues, is is that they absolutely fail to do, crucial changes to the way our healthcare is run, to the way our infrastructure is built. We have economic stagnation. We have rising cost of living. And I think what's important for the people of Slovakia to know that there is a possibility of a better future of economic growth, of investing in our education, in our healthcare. And that goes hand in hand with the foreign policy and with the partnerships that help Slovakia prosper. And those partnerships and those partners are our allies in the European Union who share our values. And this is what's going to be at stake at the elections. And I think lots and more people in Slovakia realize that we had years and years of stagnation under Mr. Fico. If you look at economic indicators, so it's time for change, and that's going to be our platform.
Do you believe that Ukraine can become a part of these early elections in case they will be held, as well as Ukraine now is becoming a part of German elections, and as Ukraine became a part of American elections second in a row?
We will see, of course. We don't know when elections are going to take place yet. We don't know whether there's going to be early elections or some other elections. It might be the case. My wish would be that our society is not polarized, and especially not polarized vis-a-vis our partner and neighbor, which is Ukraine. That there's no anti-Ukrainian sentiment playing part in this election. But it's not up to me, because we're not going to be the political party bringing it on the table. So my hope is that it's not going to be the case, and my hope is that there will be a stronger and stronger partnership between nations and countries of Ukraine and Slovakia, especially at this difficult time, and that Slovakia will be a strong supporter and partner for Ukraine as it moves on the path of European integration and for as a sovereign, free country.
You're the son of a journalist and the grandson of a philosopher and dissident. Nevertheless, the PM's party has labeled you as a criminal, and its deputy chairman, Luboš Blaha, has even used terms like Šimečka's family mafia, claiming that public protests, it's your attempt to provoke some civil war in Slovakia. We're no strangers here in Ukraine to a strong rhetoric on elections, but do you believe the Prime Minister might actually arrest you in case he feels a danger from you, much like Putin arrests everyone who opposes him, or kills them?
Right. I mean, some of the comments are, of course, outrageous, out of proportion. But it's sadly a phenomenon that is common to many, democracies around the world, that, politics become ever more polarized. The language is vitriolic. It's absolutely blown out of proportion, and it plays into, hatred, and that's what you see here. That's sadly also the case for our politics. We'll see how it moves forward, and of course you see this kind of language and these attacks on me, on my family, because my political party is getting stronger, and of course that's in a competitive environment, that's a threat for some of the governing parties. But that's democracy, and I'm absolutely confident that as we go along, more and more people will see that what we're promising as a political party is a better future for the country, which I know it has the potential for. Slovakia, I am absolutely convinced that Slovakia has great potential for economic growth, for investment, for innovation, and to be a constructive and really valuable partner for the rest of Europe. I'm absolutely sure of that, and I'm sure that more and more people will realize that, and we're going to see that in the election result.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha recently told Europejska Pravda that Kyiv is not considering concessions to Bratislava or agreeing to renew the transit deal with Gazprom to appease Slovak PM Robert Fico. However, Slovakia still has the power to block some very important decisions for Ukraine in EU or NATO. Do you think that Slovakia, with the PM Fico, will use that leverage, like to punish Ukraine for the blocking Russian gas?
I don't know what our Prime Minister will or will not do. What I can tell you is that that's not the way forward. If we really want to find constructive agreement, we first of all have to establish dialogue in good faith. not by threats, blackmail, which is also why I came to Kyiv to talk to, the president and others. And I encourage our Prime Minister to have this dialogue, to make use of this moment. And I think that's a more productive way forward than threats and blackmail. It's certainly not going to help anyone.
Michal, we are wrapping up. If there's something left you want to convey to Ukrainian people, it's time to do that.
Yeah. I've mentioned it already, but I really need to stress that a great deal of people in Slovakia support Ukraine and truly appreciate the bravery, the heroism, and the sacrifice of the Ukrainian people, and that it's not just for Ukraine's own freedom, Ukraine's own sovereignty and security, but also for the rest of Europe, and therefore also for countries like Slovakia. So I really would like people of Ukraine to know that there's really, really lots of people in Slovakia who feel that way.
Thank you very much for you being here.